stoked to be with you all, and as we embark on our journey together and kind of have our first date in a way together on behalf of Family Wellness Ministry, we're happy to be on a date with young married adult ministry and the cool relationship that's happening for all of us back and forth. So we're pleased to be part of this great program. As you know, and you've been reading and looking on this whole 8 Dates series, we know that the author includes Dr. John Gottman, who is super well known kind of in the therapy world as a marriage family therapist here for the last 30 years. I remember being in graduate school that many years ago, hearing about Dr. John Gottman as the only guy that had done scientific studies on marriage. And I wondered what made it scientific. Are there laboratory rats that are married? Like, what makes it scientific? He was the only guy that many years ago that had done longitudinal studies. He had studied the same couples for 25 years. And after all those years, he had all this empirical research on who were the couples that actually liked each other still, who stayed connected, how did they communicate, who got divorced, what was happening through all that. And out of all that research, he puts together a really practical book called 8 Dates, and that's where we're headed. Father Timothy and I will be presenting a bit prior to the first date on tonight's sort of intro session. And as you'll see in the book, it starts with this whole idea of conversations that matter. I want us to think about that, conversations that matter. As we reflect a little bit, even as Orthodox Christians, Jesus says, I give you a new commandment that you love one another. And a lot of people think the verse ends there. Actually, the love one another was the old commandment. The new commandment was that you love one another as I have loved you. And so Jesus teaches us, and the church teaches us, that the manner in which we love, it's not just the, hey, I'll call it love however I want to do it. It's a certain manner of love. Well, tonight we start this series on 8 dates, and all based on the premise that we are in a never-ending love story of a conversation that never ends. This is a certain way of having a conversation. What manner of conversation are we going to have? I want us to think about that as we launch into this first segment. As we consider conversations that matter, Gottman brings out a great point where he says that we're meant to have commitment toward being curious rather than correction. This is a real fork in the road. Now think about just that way we show up, and let alone in our own marriage. But when we encounter anyone that is curious about what we're thinking or feeling or wanting, that's very engaging. It's very connecting. It's sort of like, oh, you're interested in me? You're interested in what's going on inside of me? That's what curiosity brings. Whereas correction tends to cause a kind of turning away in times of disagreement. Certainly correction brings a spirit of judgment. And if we think about it, who's curious? And who's more corrective? I really think we can make a good case to say that this manner of loving, this manner of communicating, this kind of, if we will, which one lines up with the Spirit from the Lord Himself, it would be the humble in heart would be curious. The proud would be corrective because they're really good at it. So sometimes we even have kind of a shift from our head to our heart as we consider curiosity. And Gottman goes on to say that it's in that curiosity that takes us into the inner world of our partner, where vulnerability is, where I'm not sure I should share it, and yet curiosity makes it safe. So I really want us to consider just foundationally, and maybe a discussion item on, do I show up with curiosity? And what is it that I could even be surrendering to the Lord Himself that helps me kind of unclog my filter to get out of this corrective mode and more in the curious mode? And so as we consider that, we're building a foundation that can really strengthen our day-to-day life. As we move into the kind of the nuts and bolts of our 8 dates, we're reminded that it's going to be 8 conversations. And as we think about our curiosity, we think about leaving room for vulnerability, we can even scan the 8 conversations that we're headed toward. We have trust and commitment. We have agree to disagree, addressing conflict. We've got sex and intimacy. We've got work and money. We've got family stuff. We've got fun and adventure. We've got growth and spirituality. And we have the dreams. All of these different areas, 8 different conversations on 8 different dates. We'll have opportunity to describe this more and how we're going to proceed with this. But I just want to mention this, that somewhere on the list is going to be the more vulnerable one for you. Somewhere, 1 or 2 of these things are the things that we wouldn't quite get to just on any old date night. And in fact, we might stay away from it thinking that it's just too hard to talk about. What's cool is, as we take it one step at a time, we're going to be learning in the spirit of curiosity, in the spirit of commitment to how I take care of how I show up to this conversation in a safe and loving way, that we'll be guided toward these conversations that matter. So they don't end up just floating out there, never dealt with, but little by little, they get into sort of that zone of where we can interact with one another. So we really look forward to these dates, and I'm going to have this going on at home because I told my wife already that we're going to just go through the book ourselves, and we're coming on 30 years, and I'm looking forward to these 8 conversations, actually. Hey guys, just one more thing. I want you to look at a video clip from a counseling session of a couple that interacted in a certain way, and maybe you could relate to it. Check it out.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like... There's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking?
Hey everyone, this is Father Timothy from sunny Chandler, Arizona, and I'm really happy to be a part of this project. I want to personally welcome all of you to the 8 dates. I think you're going to get a lot out of this. We have some really exceptional people that are going to be facilitating these sessions that we have, and I hope you come away with it with some valuable information and even some valuable practices. I just wanted to talk to you about a couple things that I'm going to be working on with you this coming Thursday for the first session, and then I'll be joining you also, I think it's the last session, along with my wife, Prajiteta Vicky. The first thing I want to talk about just briefly is that, communicating effectively really takes skill. We're all born with the ability to talk and to use words and so forth, but really being able to effectively communicate takes practice. We have to learn certain skills that will help us do this. I've sat with hundreds of couples, and I've witnessed people, just talk to each other, but the problem is that many people just don't have a really good capacity to listen, and not just listen, because really 90% of effective communication is listening, but it's more than just hearing somebody speak. It's really about listening to them in order to really fully understand what it is that they're trying to say, and that's key, because we all have this need and desire to be heard, to be known, to be loved. And so in order to do that, we have to be able to connect with people. And one of the best ways to do that is to listen to somebody with the purpose of fully understanding where they're coming from. And so this is something that we're going to talk a little bit about as we move through this program. There are 7 things that I wanted to share with you briefly, and you're going to have more of this as we move on. But there are 7 things just initially, and these are all in your book, so you'll see them, that are going to be helpful. One is that it's important to be attentive to the person, and all we have to do is just think back to our first grade class when our teacher would say, "Class, give me your undivided attention." And so this is important. We can be in the same space as somebody, but we may not be fully present with them or fully attentive to them. And being present doesn't mean that you know what the other person's going to say and you interrupt them, but being present means you give them the time and the space to say what it is they need to say, and then you reflect on that with them. Another really important thing is just being able to ask more questions. I think oftentimes in conversations that we have, we're just waiting to make statements, to have a rebuttal against what this other person is saying, this loved one in our life. But the more you know and the more you're informed, then really the better you'll understand the other person, and really that's the goal. We need to tune in. We can't minimize people in terms of where they are and what they want to share. And also we have to be really careful not just to try to jump in and fix somebody. We need to bear witness to what they're saying, avoid judging them, giving them advice, being critical, and things like that. So we're gonna go in more detail about those things. There's also 4 basic skills that I think are really critical to effectively communicating, and I'm just going to fly through these really quick. The first one is being able to put into words what we're feeling. And this is a lot harder than some people think. It's very frustrating for some people when they're not able to articulate what it is that's going on inside their head and their heart. But being able to do this is important, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's important to ask questions, but not just any type of question. We want to ask open-ended questions. And an open-ended question is a question where the person can't respond with a yes or a no, but they have to really elaborate on what they're feeling and thinking. A third basic skill is what we call making exploratory comments or statements. And this also is in your book, so you don't have to write these down. You'll see them. People can use some really powerful words. And as a therapist, I'm trained to look for those words and to listen for them. And then when I hear them, then I can stop the person and I can ask them to say a little bit more about whatever it is that they're trying to share. Words like afraid or lonely or disrespected or resentful or distant. These words come out in couples conversations, and oftentimes we miss them. And so we miss the chance and the opportunity to really connect with that person. The fourth skill is to express tolerance, empathy, and understanding. This can be scary at times. When somebody begins to start opening up, it can be tough to sit there and we can, be concerned about how we're going to respond. The worst thing we can do, again, is try to fix the problem or change the subject, because then they're going to feel cut off and so forth. So we want to try to work on that and fix that as well, because there's so many opportunities to connect with our loved one. And just, I guess, a final word is that, the 8 Dates program is not for the purpose of working out conflict or troubled areas in your marriage. We really want to focus on what's going well and what's good, and focus on the positive things in terms of increasing our ability to communicate in an effective and loving way. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you and spending some time with you. God be with you.
You're the only one I ever wanna hold. You're the only one who knows how to speak to my soul. Till the stars fall out of the sky and the rivers, they all run dry. Baby, you're my only one. Till the silver that runs through our hair, don't you know that I'll always be there? Baby, I swear, till my days on this earth